Hey, good Monday morning, my friends. MLive Chief Meteorologist Mark Torregrossa here with the MLive Morning Weather Update. Hopefully you enjoyed your weekend. Hopefully you enjoyed mostly sunny skies. Just a few little showers in the southwest Saturday, but otherwise, what a classic weekend, summer weekend in mid-September, and it continues. We will have what I'm calling an early August-like week, except for one thing. What is that? The humidity. The humidity will not be like early August. The humidity will be dry for the most part. So warm and dry, that's comfortable, but it also means strong drying for our plants and whatnot and our landscape. So, hey, I got the old tropical shirt on. Cynthia Shaw's looking forward to less heat in Bel Air. Zandra has the firewood stacked. Uh-oh, people are starting to get ready for the next season. Here's the radar. It's dry. We don't really have any rainfall chance until we get to late in the week, and I'll show you in a moment that it's pretty spotty there. It could be 7 to 10 days before we have even a remotely useful type rainfall on the way. So let's start with this as far as, in the guts of the weather. Remember, the upper atmosphere drives everything that we feel here at the ground. So we look at the upper atmosphere, 15,000 feet up. That's actually what we would call the mid-level of the atmosphere. We look at that to see if it looks like a hot dome or a trough, a stormy cooler pattern, or somewhere in between. And you will see the ridge, the hot dome of air over us. In fact, it is centered over Michigan today. Now, it's still hotter to our south because they still have stronger sunshine. They have warmer land and whatnot, and they're not surrounded by beautiful Great Lakes. But we are going to be hot for us for this time of the year. Not record. I look at the records. The records are still way up there in the mid-90s, and I don't think we do that. But I do think we probably have a 90 here and there. Hey, good morning, Henry and Meemaw. She's knitting hats in her shorts. That makes sense. Jennifer Webster, good morning in Waterford. And so this is this afternoon's upper airflow. You see the pinkish colors over Michigan. You kind of see that black, squiggly black line that makes a circle. That's the center of the upper level ridge. Underneath that, you tend to have a lot of sunshine, light winds, and very warm to hot temperatures. We'll call it very warm because we're well into the 80s. Today. This is Tuesday. We're still under the ridge. And now you see it kind of break down as we go through the week. That's just kind of like a little bit of a tweaking of the ridge because these upper level systems, they're kind of just encased in this upper level ridge and try to come at us, but they have very little success doing that. This is Saturday. Okay, so there's a upper level storm out there, but it's just kind of dying on the vine. We may, if I look at this and I only get one map, this is Sunday, I say that we're quite warm for this time of the year, and we may have some scattered thunderstorms around, but I wouldn't say it's an all-day type rain. Now we go into next week, September 23rd. This model wants to do something a little odd, but it shows the big picture. It takes a storm, an upper-level storm, drops it down in the middle part of the country, and again, encases it in this ridge that we're in. So we stay warm. You do not see any sort of switch to a colder than normal pattern in this 16-day forecast. This is September 28th. Yeah, we could maybe finally get a storm system to come through, but note the big picture. The colder heights of the atmosphere still almost off the screen to the north. And I'll put that into a good perspective for you at that point. Hey, good morning, Carl Y. Camping in Brimley. Great idea. Detroit Zoo. I've never been there. I should go there. Dennis Priest, good morning, and you are welcome. All right, so radar forecast today, nothing. Radar forecast into Tuesday, nothing. Radar forecast into Wednesday afternoon, nothing. Okay, so let's go out to the European model, which remember, it's what we call a global model. That means, a lot of people say, well, why the European model? We don't want to know the weather in Europe. No, this is the Europeans' weather service, so to speak. This is their model, and it's the best one we have at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days out, generally. We look at the U.S. model to see if it compares to the European, but if they're different, we lean toward the European is probably more correct. So now we get a chance to look out farther into the future, see if there's any rain out there, see what the temperatures are going to do, if there's any sort of cool down or anything like that. Hey, good morning, Deb Locke, okay, and Tom Ramsey, good morning, Freeport. So here's the European model. Again, Wednesday dry, except for maybe in the western part of the UP. This is Thursday afternoon into evening. A weak little spotty shower pattern possible, northern lower Michigan. An hour or two, something like that. Friday, Saturday, nothing. Sunday, and I showed you the upper level storm system, so Sunday maybe. Sunday might be our first chance of an actual thunder shower around or two. It's still nothing that looks like a widespread soaker type day. Now we're into Wednesday the 24th. We're going out 16 days here, the 26th. And we start to get into, chances of rain, but nothing that looks kind of really too crazy. We are going to need it. We're going to start to quickly go into some deep drought. This is that same model, total rainfall through Thursday morning. Nothing. So lower Michigan, nothing expected as rainfall this week. Then I showed you those spotty showers on Thursday, and look at what that does. A few hundredths to a tenth of an inch in the northern third of lower Michigan across the UP. Southern half of lower Michigan, nothing. Let's go into Saturday. Let's go into Sunday. This is to Saturday night. Grand Rapids, Big Rapids, Saginaw, Mount Pleasant, southward, nothing as far as rainfall. Now, Sunday, some spotty showers, thunderstorms, and, so maybe we start to get some rain as we head toward the end of this coming weekend and into next week. But again, it's spotty. Now look at these temperatures. So I'll show you two ways here. Hey, thanks for joining me, by the way. This is MLive Chief Meteorologist Mark Torregrossa on the MLive Morning Weather Update. If you're just joining us first time, this is how we do it. If you go on to the YouTube link, you can ask questions or give reports. We greatly appreciate that. So these are the high temperature forecasts from the human being forecasters. Yes, we take all the model data, and the National Weather Service then comes up with an exact number at every location, and then they have a program that kind of weaves them together from the various Weather Service offices. So we're looking at 84 today in Grand Rapids, at least, 84 in Kalamazoo, 84 in Battle Creek, 83 Ann Arbor, Detroit. There's an urban heat island too. So this actually tries to forecast the official temperature, but I always say that, if you're in pavement, if you're a highly developed area in Detroit, you're going to be 5-10 degrees warmer. So you're going to feel like you're 90 degrees. Traverse City, well into the 80s again too, low 80s. And it doesn't stop. Tomorrow is just a little bit warmer yet in the 80s. Wednesday, look for high temperatures. I would call it 83 to 87 on Wednesday. Here's Thursday. I'd call it well into the 80s. And, some of these dry spots will approach 90 degrees, if not hit it. Friday, I think even today could be 90 in a few spots. And then, we're out into the weekend and still into the upper 70s. Let's look at another way. Let's look at this European model. Instead of the human beings, let's look at the European model because it goes out farther. And, you know, there's Tuesday, there's Wednesday in the 80s, there's Thursday. It wants to say that Thursday will be one of the warmest days. And remember, it has that little front, so when you get clouds, you cool down at this time of the year for one day. This is Saturday, back to the 80s. This is Sunday. This wants to say that it could be in the upper 80s to near 90. And this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. And do you see any cold plunge with highs in the 50s and 60s? No, we're out 16 days now, September 29th. Hey, Eric Leitonen, good morning to you. Glad you finally found us. Okay, and what else do I have? Okay, so here's the dew point. Remember, the dew point is how we measure humidity and how things are uncomfortable. Relative humidity is not a good thing to do because relative humidity can be really high when it's cold and lower when it's super hot, but it could still feel humid. So we use the dew point. And remember, dew points 65 or above start to feel muggy. Dew points in the 50s feel dry. Dew points in the 40s feel very dry. And let's look at what we have in the forecast. And you'll see quite dry, which is another thing that progresses drought because the soil dries out. So, you know, this afternoon, dew points in the 50s to near 60. Very dry feeling at 85 degrees. Tuesday, look at that. Some dew points in the 40s. Very dry feeling. Wednesday, dry. Thursday. Now, if you're near the water, you can see the effect of the warmer Great Lakes. It boosts the humidity a little bit, but still when it's dry air, that higher humidity near off of the lake, what we call the marine layer, really isn't a big deal. This is Friday, you know, so you can get little hints of higher humidity, but certainly nothing like we had July. Remember, July was the second muggiest July on record, I found. I did that research, nobody else. And now we're into the weekend and dew points low. So we really don't see a surge in moisture until we start to get into those upper level storm systems late in the month. So we're going to be warm and humid later on in the month. In other words, my friends, this summer party isn't ending. It's not ending for the next couple of weeks. And when we look 2 weeks out, we don't see the end in sight there. It will end. Trust me, we know that. But just a matter of when. So it's going to be early October before we even talk about any additional frost. Hey, thanks for joining me on the MLive Morning Weather Update. I'm MLive Chief Meteorologist Mark Torregross. We've got a lot of folks on here today. Good morning to K-Dog 1006 and Adam Hunt. Heading fishing again. This is a pretty good weather pattern for not a lot of wind. Individual hours can be a little different, but when you have an upper level high pressure system blocking storms, you don't get much wind at the surface. So a good pattern there. Thanks for joining me on the MLive Morning Weather Update. I'm MLive Chief Meteorologist Mark Torregrossa.